In classrooms everywhere, there's a conversation about ADHD that we really need to have. It's time we start moving beyond just the labels and really dig into what helps these students not just get by, but actually succeed. So let's jump right in.
Okay, I want you to just picture this for a second. You're in a classroom. There's a kid in their chair, can't stop fidgeting, right? They're shifting around, maybe their pencil case falls on the floor, again, and you see the teacher just let out this quiet, tired sigh. What's your very first thought? Honestly, is this just a naughty kid who needs to learn how to sit still? Or could it be something more? And that is the big question, isn't it? Because what so often looks like a kid choosing to misbehave, well, it could actually be a sign of a really complex neurological condition, ADHD. This is where we have to shift our whole perspective, moving away from judgment and towards real understanding.
To really get it, we've got to look inside the brain. The biggest thing to wrap your head around is that ADHD isn't a character flaw, it's not a choice somebody makes. We're talking about fundamental, real differences in how the brain is wired.
So what is it exactly? Well, think of ADHD as a condition that affects the brain's management system, what experts call our executive functions. This system is in charge of things like paying attention, controlling our impulses, and managing our energy levels. And for people with ADHD, the challenges they face stem directly from differences in how their brain developed and its day-to-day chemistry.
Let's just put it side by side. In what we might call a typical brain, those networks that manage attention and impulses, they're pretty consistent. But in an ADHD brain, that whole regulation system just works differently. It's not that attention is missing. In fact, it can be incredibly intense, but it's really hard to direct it where it needs to go. Impulses are just way harder to filter. This isn't a kid being defiant. It's just their neurology at work.
And that brings us to maybe the most important point of this entire explainer. Are you ready? ADHD is not laziness. I'm going to say that again. ADHD is not laziness. A child who's struggling to finish their worksheet isn't choosing to be difficult. They are literally wrestling with a brain that operates on a different set of rules. And that's the single biggest misconception we all need to leave behind.
Okay, so let's take all this theory and drop it right into the real world. What do these brain differences actually look like during a normal school day, in a real classroom?
So in the classroom, it can look like a bunch of different things. Trouble staying focused on one assignment, that constant fidgeting, interrupting the teacher or other kids, not to be rude, but because the thought just pops out, or forgetting a 3-step instruction just seconds after it was given. Now, if you don't know what's going on, it can just seem like a list of bad habits. And that misunderstanding, the child is the one who feels the weight of it, leading to so much frustration, shame, and feeling totally alone.
So we know the challenges. The big question is, how do we help? And the good news, the really good news, is that the support doesn't have to be some huge, complicated thing. It's all about using the right tools and the right strategies to create an environment where these kids can actually thrive.
Here's a super practical toolkit. First up, break down those big, intimidating projects into tiny, manageable steps. This is huge because it cuts down on that feeling of being overwhelmed and gives the brain more frequent little hits of dopamine. That's the brain's reward chemical for every small win. Second, reward the effort, not just the perfect final product. Third, scheduled movement breaks. Simple, right? But they can completely reset a wandering mind. Why? Because moving around helps replenish key chemicals in the brain, giving that attention system a quick reboot. Fourth, flexible seating, like a standing desk or a wobble cushion. This is a game changer. It gives an outlet for all that physical energy, which frees up mental energy to actually focus. And finally, keep instructions crystal clear, simple, and maybe even write them on the board so they're visible.
And when we start putting these simple strategies into place, the effect, well, it's not small. It can be absolutely transformative. We stop just trying to manage behavior and start actually empowering a student.
And really, this is the ultimate takeaway. These aren't massive, expensive overhauls. They're small, thoughtful adjustments. Just imagine that fidgeting child again, but now they're at a standing desk, and suddenly they can focus. They're getting their work done. They're smiling and laughing with their friends at recess. They are thriving, not just academically, but socially too, all because of a little bit of understanding.
It really all boils down to this simple but powerful 3-word mantra. First, notice. Notice that a struggle isn't a choice. Second, support. Give them the tools they need to navigate it. And third, and this is so important, believe. Believe in their incredible potential to succeed.
But here's the thing. This understanding can't just stay with a few of us. If we want to create classrooms that are truly inclusive for everyone, This knowledge has to become common knowledge.
Awareness is the absolute foundation for inclusion. You know, when teachers, parents, and even the other kids in the class understand the why behind a behavior, empathy starts to replace frustration. So share what you've learned here. Be a part of spreading that understanding.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. It doesn't matter if you're a teacher, a parent, a friend, or just someone who cares. Based on everything we've talked about, what's one small change, just one, that you can make tomorrow to help build a more understanding and supportive world for these kids?